Hello. Welcome to the 14th of December, which I know for everyone else out there watching this video, well, if it's 2019 anyway, it's a Saturday. But in 1939, 80 years ago, it was Thursday. And it was a very special Thursday. And I say this because it being Thursday has a bearing. Thursday's the end of the work week. Pretty much. Thursday is not the day of the week I'm recording this video. I'm recording it on a Wednesday. Hence in this wonderful lecture film. Thursday is when Captain McCall gets called up. And pretty much the call goes out as soon as the Graf Spee enters Montevideo harbour. McCall is dispatched from Buenos Aires up to Montevideo. Simply, there aren't enough budgets, even in the 1930s, to have people in all the ports you need them. So, the naval attaché is one of those extra people. First things first. First move. In fact, I have a feeling that this move was being done by Millington Drake before the Graf Spee had even dropped anchor. I have a feeling this was starting to be formulated because it arrived so quickly, so well rehearsed, and is so organised. This note is pretty much the first thing that Dr. Guani sees when he goes in the morning. And for Guani, this must be a kind of interesting scenario because he and Millington Drake go back a long way. They've known each other for years. Several sources describe them as a sort of uncle-nephew relationship. They certainly have a lot in common and a very familial pattern to their discussions. This, of course, gives the British a bit of an edge, but it's an edge provided by the fact that Millington Drake has been out in the South America, in various parts of South America, so much over the years that these people, the ministers he's interacting, he has met them at the beginning of their careers when he was at the beginning of his career, and now they are in a senior post, he's in a senior post. He's a familiar face. It's an advantage which the British do play on tremendously. And on the 14th of December, this will have particular bearing. On the 14th of December, there is a very, very famous meeting. In the movie anyway, it's dramatically overstated. It's pretty much considered in the movie that this happens immediately. It doesn't. This interview happens at noon. Things aren't going to be rushed. No one's going to be rushing around. You have to remember, diplomacy takes time. Appointments have to be arranged. A minister cannot simply turn up at a foreign minister's residence and go, "You will see me now." It's rude. Even for the world's foremost maritime power and the representatives of the, arguably at the time, the most powerful global military force, well, at least as it looked in 1939, Britain and France could not turn up. We all know what happens afterwards. We all know what happens to France. We all know all the rest of World War II. But in 1939, even with the status they had then, they couldn't do that. They still had to adopt diplomatic niceties. Interesting enough, this response is in towards the French ambassador. Millington Drake said, basically, in the most forward manner possible for an ambassador, asks if Uruguay has the force to carry out their decision, if they're going to kick out the Graf Spee. And remember, on the 14th of December, Millington Drake's focus is to kick the Graf Spee out of Montevideo as fast as possible. His view is that there must be a Royal Navy force already sitting outside, which has already given this cruiser a mighty beating. So his plan is to kick it out into their waiting arms so they can finish the job. Same time as he's having this meeting, Harwood, by now, depending on the timeline, Rear Admiral, is sending a note basically going, please don't. Whatever you do, keep the Graf Spee in harbour. I have force, but not enough to make it certain. More ships are coming, give me time. However, and here's the funniest thing going on. As I've said before, Graf Spee, in actual fact, could have done with being turned around quickly. The quicker she could get to sea, despite them fleeing for time, despite them thinking about submarines coming to the rescue and these things, her chance to get to sea, to get to safety, basically runs out the moment HMS Cumberland turns up, although she doesn't realise it. The various sources go on about how the fact the Uruguayans were not happy to help. In fact, the major dockyard facility in Montevideo is owned by a family at this time of French descent. And at one point, when the German minister rings up and basically is demanding that they give everything over to supporting his ship, and in return they will get paid whatever they require from Germany, and this owner goes, no. He says, is it because you're a Frenchman? No, it's because I'm Uruguayan, is the response. Well, the Germans put down the intractability of the Uruguayans firmly on Millington Drake's shoulders. They are firmly seeing this man as being the architect of their defeat on these fronts, because they see him as having created such a pervasive culture of Millington Drakeism in Uruguay. He is a very popular figure. He's a celebrity. I know. When we think about ambassadors today, we often think of grey individuals who are quietly talking behind doors. Millington Drake was a dashing, dapper gentleman, and he used it to his advantage. Every sporting ceremony, as we all know, if you've been watching this, he took part in the Olympics bid for Uruguay. He was very keen on promoting them internationally, on helping the Uruguayans stand up on the international stage. Those assistants were being rewarded now with the access he had. And for the Germans, it was terrible. For the Germans, they have this going on. They have virtually no support. They are having to rely on Argentinian tugboats. They are having to rely on men from merchant vessels, their own crew, volunteers from German expats who live in Uruguay. They have none of the professional support they need to try and get their ship seaworthy. Well, of course, if you remember Millington Drake's point, seaworthy is, of course, a interesting justification. It's supposed to be seaworthiness is supposed to be a requirement they're going for, but she'd already sailed 300 miles at pretty much full speed. How much more seaworthy could you get? The trouble is, things weren't as clear-cut as that. Anyway, 14th of December is a day of a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing, and a lot of hot air. But actually, the most important thing that happens on the 14th of December is a note arrives late at night from Admiral Harwood.